All right, welcome back to the Awareness Channel. My name is TC. All right, talk a little shit about something a little different today. It's kind of in the same vein, but it's kind of a different topic. It ain't, Donald Trump and them. Even though I do have another piece coming up about them, but right now I'm going to talk about something just a little bit different. I want to talk about a little island in the Caribbean called Trinidad. Now, I got some really close relatives in Trinidad. You know what I'm saying? Really close. I got three stepsons and a father-in-law and all that down there in Trinidad. Godson, everything. Right there on the southern coast. Right down there in a little town called Point Fortin. Anyway, Trinidad right now is entering into a partnership with the United States. Now, I always knew Trinidad was like this. I always knew Trinidad was more Western than Caribbean. You dig me? They got the same racial dynamic down there as we got here, only with the Indians playing the role of the white folks down there in Trinidad. And Trinidad has close ties to Great Britain. And, out of all the Caribbean countries, the only one that Donald Trump ain't throwing under the bus is Trinidad. Because Trinidad's prime minister, she's smart. And on this point, I can't blame her. Because do the math. Venezuela could overrun Trinidad in a week, 2 weeks. But the United States, with the protection of the United States, Trinidad is relatively safe. I mean, I was down there in Trinidad and I saw the U.S. Embassy. Huge building, beautiful building, fortified, all that. I wouldn't be surprised if the United States in a couple of years had a whole fucking military base in Trinidad. So now she's in the Kamala, I just call her Kamala, has entered into a partnership with Marco Rubio and Donald Trump. And they're just going to jack the Dragon gas fields from Venezuela. Just going to take the gas. Just going to pipe it right to Trinidad and all that. Just going to take the shit. The gas field is inside Venezuela's borders. Right? The United States, with the help of Trinidad, if I'm hearing this shit correctly, are just going to take the shit. There was a partnership, you see. There's supposed to have been some sort of partnership between Venezuela, Trinidad, and Shell Oil Company. Shell is a U.S. company with U.S. shareholders. You dig me? And they had this partnership or whatever. And Donald Trump, being the president of the United States, he trying to get Maduro, he trying to do regime change. So he, for one reason or another, he trashed the whole agreement. And Kamala, she just quickly, I don't want nothing to do with Venezuela. Blah, 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 blah. She talking that shit. But she talking that shit to protect her people and her country. And I understand that. If I was her, I'd have to side with the United States for the safety of my people and my country. I couldn't, because at the end of the day, that's what her job is. But to enter into this deal with the United States to steal gas from Venezuela, that's a very dangerous thing to do. That's some shit right there. That's a very dangerous thing to do. Knowing that I think the United States, judging from how they did Vietnam and how they did got into World War II, and how the United States gets into most of its wars, they want to create a situation where the adversary ain't got no choice but to take a shot at them. And once the adversary does that, that'll give the United States a reason to go in there and do full-fledged regime change, like Pistol Pete Hedgehog Hegseth was saying yesterday, or the day before yesterday. Want to go in there with that lethality. You dig me? So that's what's happening. Trinidad just kind of sold to the devil. And the devil being Donald Trump and them, I think. I love my relatives, but we have no problem going back and forth between Trinidad and the United States. You know what I mean? The passport, the visa, all that shit comes right through with Trinidad and the United States. But when you Jamaican or something like that, it's a problem. And don't be Haitian. Shit. But Trinidad, they gotta be careful entering into deals with the United States. A lot of times that shit don't turn out good. But you know what? At the end of the day, I do think Trinidad gonna be all right because of the side she picked. Because she was caught between a rock and a hard place. Kamala was. So she gonna help them jack this motherfucking natural gas. Venezuela gonna fire at somebody or something, and the United States gonna go in there. Now, I don't want that prediction to be true, but that's what it looks like they trying to make happen. I guess the time will tell. Anyway, I hope y'all like my take on that shit. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. TC, and I'm out. Peace.